Hello, CNG 132. Welcome to Wednesday. These are usually the days I get the midweek check-ins in. Once grading has been done, once I assess all the discussions and everything else. Let's see, for this week, to cover last week, let's start with last week's stuff. As you see, working with Jenny, this should be resolved. I know it is for the face-to-face class. But if you're still having issues, let me know. I will work with Jenny and your account to get you guys squared away. Once again, giving leeway. For those of you that had grades lower than you'd like in the essay part, here's a good way to get those points back. And I don't mind going back and look at your essays. Most of them are on track, with just some minor little tweaks. You should start to see goals or scores of 10 over 10. If you look at the page one, it should be a title paper with the running header of whatever your paper is called. Looking at my Word doc, this was one of the very early papers that I did. Make sure you have your running header, page one in the top right corner, the name of your paper, your name of your affiliated organization, and then your name. So that should all be located on page one. If you're using, let's see, Office 365, just enter a page break after you put in this information, and it should start your next page, which then we get rid of running head. We just put the title of the paper, and then we start the abstract on page two, top right corner. The abstract is a synopsis of your paper. Sometimes if you do a prompt, it's good to mimic what the prompt says in this abstract itself right here. Sometimes it's easier to write your paper and then come up with the abstract and say, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is what's contained in the paper. Once again, keywords, auditing, independence, and then your last name. The third page should be the start of your paper. So we have the title, why is it relevant? We don't get so much into that here because it's not a research class, but it's more of a preparing you for the future type course. We see this as a starting point, page three. I state there's a problem, and then I find a quote. If you look here, that's 3 lines. 3 lines of content, that I just quoted that backs up whatever I stated in these 4 lines of content. Once again, if you make any sort of claim or have any sort of side in the matter, the article you read should either back that up or argue against that, because you're just trying to say, okay, this is a valid argument. Here's my support for that argument in this article. And really, you can find articles that support your argument, and just beef up content for your submission. Sometimes there's a discussion, depending on what kind of type of paper you're writing. Once again, if you look through this, a lot of the content is just quotes. A lot of the content is just quotes. So like I said, when you're writing these papers, they should just be a lot of support for your point of view of what you're saying is important in this context. You can't have a conclusion page. Usually just kind of summarizing your own thoughts, your own viewpoints. Maybe there should be a future study done on why it is bad, or maybe a more in-depth study. You feel like it needs to be studied further. Last page, references. The entire paper itself should be double spaced, Times Roman, 12 point, and it should be fairly easy for yourself to get a really just writing 2 pages of work. So if you do your paper and then I guess you can do your conclusion as 1 page too, but usually your conclusion is very small. Once again, like the abstract, kind of going over what you talked about and why it's important and what you think a future study should be. Like this recommendation to help stay independent would be avoid making friends at work. It's okay to be social and polite, but that may interfere with your approach to audit. Once again, you just could give like, hey, if this should be done in the future, these considerations should be made. But once again, finding 2 pages of content should be really quick for you guys. This project, I'm guessing like 2 hours time. Once you formulate a template, say you get if I give you feedback on your assignment, then it was like excellent, you should use that template, that format of that paper in other papers in the future. If I said good, you're very, very close, just tweak a few things. When I say close, you have to tweak a few more things. Pay attention to that verbiage I use, and you'll come out with those extra points. Feel free to submit those additional papers. One thing that I did notice was a few missing discussions and projects. Make sure you get those projects in. Some points are better than no points, and with that equaling, I think, 20% of your grade, that's a pretty substantial part. Getting started, syllabus. Yeah, it's 25% of your grade. So even if you decided to blow that part off, you should still walk out of here with a 75%. So a low C. Essays, 15% of your grade. Discussions, 20% of your grade. Test 25. Projects from test 20. Final exam 15. So make sure you get these high priority items in. 15, 20. Make sure you get those assignments in, and make sure you do that to your fullest, because right there, that's 65% of your grade, meaning that you only need to accumulate 10 more percent to walk out of here with a mid C. Tests are worth 25% of your grade. I just got off the phone with Sandra Greenfeld. Those codes are still not in. I believe there's an issue higher up the chain. I'm going to make some calls today and try to get that sorted out. But if you have any questions about the feedback for your essays, feel free to contact me. Feel free to use mine as a template. You need to develop a good template in order to get that paper formatting just right. Once again, if you're making mistakes in English, I'm not really looking for that because it's not an English course. I'm just making sure that you can write a good paper for me to read, understand, and if you do make any sort of argument, which you are doing, you should have meat added to your argument so it's more strong. But let me know. Get back to me. If you have any questions about your grades, feel free to reach out. If you did not submit anything and have a 0, make sure to get that stuff in.